Hi all, welcome to another exciting episode of Skill Lab, career podcast by Zenofi Learning Lab, where we connect students with real world insights from industry leaders to help them build their future. Today's conversation will be all about data, AI, and the future of healthcare. And we have a very special guest with us today, Ms. Anagha Choukhande. She is the director of product at Medha Analytics, a company which helps to improve healthcare through data and AI. She has over 15 years of experience, and today she is here with us to share her journey, how data is revolutionizing the healthcare, and a few tips for you to improve and make yourself career ready persons. And let's welcome Miss Anagha. Hi, Anagha.
Hi, Anjana.
So glad to have you here with us. Shall we begin?
Yeah.
Yes. So let's start with your journey, right? So you have started your journey as a software developer and now leading product at healthcare sector. So what's all about this?
Yeah, so I'll start from a little bit more beginning than the beginning of the software journey. So I got introduced to software very early on. I was lucky that my curriculum included C++ in my, in my studies right from ninth standard. And so we have had maths and science and aviation and those kind of subjects before. But when it was introduced to us in ninth standard, I thought, okay, what kind of magic is this? I can ask it to write something, give it instructions, and it will create some kind of a program. So yeah, of course, that created a lot of spark for technology in all of us. Others, some of my other friends who were also interested, and then it never left. It was always there throughout my school. And by the time I was in 12th standard, I was very much sure that I have to be in software development. Of course, I had a few role models who were also in software development. So I thought that, okay, this is the way to go. This is my dream job. I have to be in software. And then, like others around me, we were all looking for an engineering college. We were all looking for computer science and IT. Now I realize that has little to, as in, of course, the training helps you.
Yes.
But if you have a programmatic bent of mind, that you'll always find your way into software. So I also found my way into Tech Mahindra. That was my first job. I joined there as a software developer. And right from the day one, I felt that I fit in. So it was fun to, learn new technologies. We went through some training programs. And apart from the ones that I've learned in my college academically, it was good to know what are the skill sets which are required in the company, which will help you, solve problems there.
Okay.
And we all learned, we went through that training program and I started working. So, of course, I till that time, I used to think that, okay, this is technology, this is fun. I need to work into this. I need to learn better programming. I need to learn more, functions of Java or C++ or SQL, whatever I'm doing. And that is all I thought. But I was put into a team where we were supposed to, we were supposed to address the production issues. In software terms, it is called as third line support team. And we were supposed to, find fault in someone else's code. And of course, it was not a fault. Many a times, it was just a business scenario which was not addressed. So that got me interested in business side of the things, because I had to understand that why was certain thing written and what is the real situation in which this code doesn't work or the design doesn't work. So that's where I got interested for the business side of it. I joined after a working couple of years there. I knew I had to go somewhere which is closer to the business, which gives me more exposure to this. So I joined one more company as a business analyst while I was still in Pune. And soon after, I realized that, okay, I need to be learning how the businesses work, and for that I did an MBA. After that, even when I was in MBA, I was very sure that I have to be closer to the technology, because that was first love. And of course, no matter how much you learn that how the software is developed, why it works, why it doesn't work, when something you build and it works, it still feels like magic. It feels
Correct.
like, okay, you've created something magical. So I was still very excited about the technology part of it. So I tried to find something after MBA which will not be too much away from the technology, but again, I will understand that what is the impact, what is the purpose of my work. So I joined one more startup. Of course, I was always a startup girl. I liked building things from scratch. I liked doing that. So I first looked for a place where I would get more responsibilities. I would understand it better. And my role will not have boundaries. I could be doing anything. I wanted that kind of a place. And I got such place called Incentious. Now it is now a mid-level company in Pune. But I had to shift to Bangalore due to some personal reasons. And then I came to Bangalore and again tried to find something like that. And that is when I got introduced to NH, where they were just they were just setting up their analytics team. So I was the second employee in that team. My boss started
Again, a startup.
Yeah,
Yes.
again. So it was within a big organization, but that department itself was a startup. So, and then we built again from scratch. And we soon grew 10-member team, 12, I think 15-member team. Now we are 70 members. And while we were building solutions for NH, we understood that, okay, these solutions are helpful for other hospitals also. And that is when we started selling, outside NH also to other hospitals in India, outside India. And now our division is into a separate company, a wholly owned subsidiary of Narayana Health, call it Medha Analytics. Medha means the brain of the organization. So that is what it is named after. And we started building solutions for healthcare. And we provide that for other hospitals apart from NH too. So that is how I became the director of products here. So
Yes.
coming to the product, it was a natural transition since I already, had interest in business. I knew that earlier I knew that, okay, for a problem, I need to give a technical solution. Soon after coming to Narayana and then seeing the business firsthand so close, the hospital business, I understood that many times it is not just technology. Sometimes the solution can be a change in process. The solution can be a change in user behavior. So that made me more interested in building a product rather than just providing a technical solution.
I would like to know what sparked your interest in AI and analytics, especially in healthcare sector.
Okay. So I got introduced to, again, numbers. That is what analytics earlier meant to me. I got introduced to it in my second job at Synergy, where, we would deal with troves and troves of data, which would ultimately distill down to numbers. And those numbers would tell a story. Now, that story was not something that I first understood that, okay, this is the purpose of, getting those numbers. But then slowly after working there, I understood that, okay, these numbers actually help you either take a decision, sometimes motivate you, sometimes to tell you that, okay, maybe don't do this may be riskier. So these things I understood only when I started working there and saw that firsthand, that how the numbers that we calculated help the sales representatives in some telecom company to, earn their quota or achieve their quota. They knew, okay, this is the distance that I have to cover. So to know where you are, they needed a number. So objectification of their work into numbers, it helped them be more focused on what needs to be done. So that is when I started, getting interested in understanding the story behind the numbers. And analytics was just beginning to start. It was like the buzzword that time also, but it was still in the early days. People were not looking for analytics jobs as such, but of course, it did seem like a very interesting proposition. So when I joined Great Lakes, that is one of the reason I wanted to do an MBA also, because numbers, of course, meant something. And we use that in our day-to-day life also. We see, okay, whether a car, if you're buying a car, you see what is the mileage it gives and how much does it cost, which mutual funds to buy, what has been its past performance. We have been doing that in our day-to-day life. But how do we make that into a professional career was something that I wanted to learn, and I wanted to understand where all the numbers are used and what is the practical application of doing all these calculations in terms of business. So when I joined Great Lakes, I purposely, I picked out the courses which had business analytics in them. I majored also in business analytics and finance, again, closer to the numbers. And again, technology was non-negotiable for me. So I tried to find a place where I'll get exposure to technology, finance, and of course, understanding the impact and purpose of what I'm doing, which is knowing the business too. So that's when I joined I told you like last time, I joined the one more startup in Pune. And after Pune, when I came to Bangalore, I was looking for the same things and wanted something in analytics and AI. Healthcare was by chance. So
Yes.
fortunately, Narayana that time was looking for to set up a analytics and AI division, and I happened to land that job, and then that opened another era for me to know that okay, healthcare is something which is getting into the new trend of data digitization.
Yes.
And here the kind of analytics and AI that you can do will be transformative. So healthcare, I didn't plan it, but when I landed, I realized that okay, I've been extremely lucky to be here. And since then, I felt that this is the right place to be. And since then, we have been building products into healthcare analytics and AI domain to help our hospitals, and now some other hospitals also. So for me, it was one thing kept, as in it started with technology, then it started with business, then it started with numbers, and then I got to combine all of it along with healthcare in. And healthcare gives you the kind of impact which makes your work exciting. So why are you doing it? What is the purpose of it? Was very clear in healthcare because you could see it firsthand that whatever you do turns into a better care for a patient, turns into better decision making for a patient, or lower cost of healthcare for the patient. So all of that was very gratifying. I feel this is the best place to be.
Now in healthcare, being the director of product at Medha Analytics, again, the healthcare company. So, how does a typical day look like for you here?
Um, Honestly, no 2 days are same.
Oh, fine.
So I have, I feel I have 2, 3 personas in the job. Sometimes I am someone who goes to this business, who goes to the people who are closer, much closer to the business than I am. And I need to understand that, okay, what are the problems that we can solve together using analytics, AI, and technologies. Uh, Once I do that, then I have another persona where I need to translate that vision. I need to translate those business goals to my team and help them into solutioning, and then seeing that okay, what can we do to achieve the goal which business wants, and keeping both of them into the major into the main product strategy or the business or the goal for us in Medha, which is to bring down the patient cost for the patient for healthcare. So at Narayana, we always run with the same motto that we will try to give healthcare to all. So, which means cover as many patients as you can and give them access to healthcare. Now, that is something we all know that is not happening because, of course, there are so many people with much lesser healthcare infrastructure and doctors and nurses and clinicians. So, to help them bridge that gap, technology is one solution that we want to offer to see if they can be more productive, if we can bring more efficiencies in healthcare, and we can make it accessible to more people. So with that main goal in my mind, my day-to-day changes either to understand the problem or to create a solution for those problems. So I have again been very fortunate with a good team which helps, which complements all the things with each other, and it complements all the things that are required to build a product for healthcare. Plus, we are very lucky to be in the hospital setup, so we get to see the problems firsthand. That way, Narayana is also very aligned to be technology first company, because I think that comes from the founder that the answer to this gap between the healthcare facilities as well as the people needing needing healthcare services is technology. That larger vision, I think we are able to manage my work day to day.
So also I think along with accessibility there is something called affordability as well, right?
Yes.
That also plays a very important role, especially in a developing country like India.
Absolutely.
So what is especially Medha Analytics taking an initiative or like to revolutionize the healthcare industry? Like
So what we think is that every inefficiency or every leakages that are happening in the system, every root cause analysis that you want to do can be done through data. And if you miss out on those, that will translate into higher cost for patients.
Correct.
So healthcare in itself is a business with a very high capital. So if you want to open a hospital, you have to spend a lot of money. You have to get very expensive equipments. So everything in a hospital is expensive. If it is not used to the best of its capacity, so you are wasting that potential.
Correct.
So it is an interest of the hospital, it is an interest of the business to ensure that all your high value assets are used. Otherwise, it will be financially not viable. At the same time, it is also in the interest of the hospital to get as many patients to use those resources. So that is where we bridge the gap. We help understand that where are the inefficiencies, where is it that we can increase the throughput so that more patients can be
Accommodated.
can be accommodated and more patient gets access to the healthcare facilities. Now, if more patients come, of course, the cost per patient will go down.
Correct.
Because you're using the same fixed infra for a lot more patients.
Correct.
Of course, there is a large part of it is a variable cost also, which is patient to patient based on what the patient's own consumption is. But the major infrastructure, which is one of the bigger cost, that gets divided into more patients. It means you are able to play at the economies of scale. So that is something that we help with Medha. We help healthcare organization understand if there are any inefficiencies. We'll help them bring out to you through data, through AI, and we will also help them in addressing those inefficiencies again through our solutions. So we have several solutions which help in addressing and several solutions which helps in identifying the gaps. That's
Yeah.
how we do it.
Yes. So, Medha Analytics helps hospitals in all the fields like finance, operations, clinical support, and all these things, right? So, how can your work directly impact the healthcare flow?
Sure. Like I said before, that the main goal for Medha Analytics, as well as for many of the organization, is to cut down the patient's cost
Correct,
for
correct.
care, so that it is more affordable, it is more accessible. When that happens, of course, the impact is very, very gratifying. But how do we do is not one big, big bang solution that will help you make the healthcare cost, lesser for the patient. It has to be done part by part, and
Yes.
that is where we. The business comes into the picture, it is the business which helps us understand business people who are working closely on the ground. Let's say if there is a OPD manager, and he sees that the patients have high waiting time. Okay. So I'll just give you one example. Patients have to wait for 45 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours to meet with the doctor. The major thing that they do when they come to the hospital is wait.
Correct.
Okay. So now that may not be something which may seem like a problem, but when you look closely, the amount of time patient waits creates the need to have bigger facility.
Correct.
Right? Amount of time patient is waiting makes the patient makes them reluctant to visit a hospital, because they know, okay, if I go to the hospital, it is going to be long wait time. The amount of time patient waits also makes them wary to not take the next line of treatment, because okay, I have to meet a doctor again. There's a
Yes.
follow-up. Of course, you would have also faced
Correct.
going to a hospital is actually a lot of waste of my time. I just wait for it to get better on my own. Only when there is something very critical, I will go to the hospital.
Correct.
Whereas healthcare was not meant to be like this. The earlier you go to the hospital, we all know this at the same time. Earlier you see a doctor, earlier you get the right treatment, you can prevent it being a bigger episode. So, but wait time is still there. So that is the problem that first we will understand and we'll try to address. So it may not seem like a direct impact in some cases, but it will still result into better care for patients if patients are proactive in coming to hospital, if doctors are less loaded with the lines of patients, if they're and it is not just doctors who are burnt out, even the medical staff who have to manage the patients who are waiting for the last 2 hours. Everyone is facing the
Same
burden of
issue.
it. Yeah, burden of it. So if you reduce the waiting times, you will have a win-win situation for everyone. Nobody
Correct,
wants to
correct.
wait. So that is a problem that we will take up. So that is one of the examples how we pick up the right problem to solve. once we have some solutions so AI and analytics can help you understand how many patients have been waiting, what are the major reasons for patients have been waiting, when do they come, when do they go, what is the typical wait time, which areas are more crowded, is it because of certain events in the morning that the rest of the patients have to wait.
Yes.
So to help you plan better, analytics and AI solutions can help in these situations and help you reduce the waiting times. So that is one such example. Similarly, there are a lot of inefficiencies in many other areas where we go and understand that first what is the problem to be solved, and the impact is seen in lesser way. And good thing is because you're also dealing with numbers, the impact is seen right there when you visit the hospital and you see that okay, doctors are happier because they're not burdened too much, or nurses are happier because they can focus on the real patient care instead of managing the patients who are not very happy because they've been waiting for 2 hours. So the impact comes in these pieces to us, that we are able to see that okay, we are able to help hospital administrator to manage the crowd better, and ultimately all the impact from different solutions. So we have solutions. So this was an example of clinical operations. Similarly, there are solutions on the supply chain side, finance side, marketing, your patient journey side. So whenever we find small impact, we tend to add it up, and that helps us, be more creative in the solutions that we give, and it encourages us to, keep on the path of using AI and analytics to help hospitals. So far it has been really gratifying, the kind of impact that we've seen. But of course, there's a large ground to cover.
Also, the availability of the right medicine, that's again a concern for many
Right,
people,
right.
Because they'll not have it in the hospital, which
Right.
they have
Yeah.
went, and they'll have to get it from the other side.
Yeah. That used to
After a
be
huge waiting,
right.
consulting the doctor again to another shop.
Yes.
It makes a lot of worry when it comes to hospital side, right?
Absolutely. So, of course, there are like a lot of solutions which is around the availability of medicines, ensuring that the right kind of medicines, first of all, are prescribed. Not the kind, I mean, as in, of course, doctors know what to prescribe, but are these the ones which are available in the
Available,
pharmacy
correct.
next to the hospital, or available in the pharmacy inside the hospital? Can we provide that to patients without much of a waiting time? So those are, of course, the things which, of course, data and analytics can solve. So we help doctors, clinicians, even the hospital administrators with all these gaps using our solutions. So if let's say there is a medicine which is not available, to find the alternative medicine, that is some suggestion that can go to the pharmacist. Similarly, if in a IPD setting, as in a setting where you are admitted in the hospital and you don't have to go and buy the medicine yourself, but the hospital itself provide, it is very important that the right medicine is available for the right patient, which means your supply chain has to be very tight. So otherwise, if you don't have the right equipments or the right kind of medicines to be given to the patients, you'll not be able to provide the best kind of care. So now with the current data and analytics and AI solutions, we are very well able to predict that what are the kind of items which will be needed for a patients, and what are the types of patients that will get admitted. Because of course, many hospitals, patients come for certain specialities.
Correct.
So, for example, our cardiac hospital at Pomusandra,
Yes.
people come there for heart surgeries.
Correct.
So, what are those items which are required for a heart surgery? So, the objective of the analytic solution would be to provide that in advance to the supply chain team, that these are the kind of items you will need. These items are going are going down in the inventory, and you need to replenish them. This is the lead time, which means this is the amount of time you will need to get the item into the inventory. And how do you consider all these factors and directly give them a list of items to be ordered, so that they never go out of stock.
Correct.
At the same time, keeping a very lean inventory. So you can't just buy everything and keep it. Otherwise, if it is not used, you will incur a cost of holding the item. You will also have the risk of items getting expired. So keeping a lean inventory but not going out of stock is something that where analytics and AI solutions help.
I would like to know what are the recent trends in healthcare analytics right now going on.
Okay. So actually, the recent trend in healthcare is digitization. That
Yes,
is something, which was not so prevalent before. Healthcare records used to be handwritten physical records. Now, more and more, now that is something that you will also observe if you go to a big hospital like Narayana or any other big hospitals. You will see that your records are all stored.
Correct,
There are the previous history is all stored, and that has given rise to better diagnosis for the patient, because now the doctor is not supposed to just answer question based on your current symptoms, because you have the history of the patient also stored in the system digitally. So doctor has much more data points to take right decision for you.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you don't bring your past records, there is no reference for those records. So this has made the patient diagnosis based on the patient's longitudinal data available, which is a huge thing. And that has unlocked the potential for analytics and AI also. So even if, let's say, there is a huge digital, first of all, analytics is a downstream system, analytics and AI. There needs to be an upstream digitization for it to come into picture only. So once that happens, and that is happening rampantly, I see that more and more hospitals are wanting to get onto the best systems of EMR, HISs. These are all the hospital information system, which helps them collect the information about the patient so that that can be used for better patient care.
Yes.
That is when solutions like us come into the picture, and we are seeing this exciting trend of healthcare professionals being okay in getting assisted with these kind of technologies.
Yeah.
So the way AI and analytics will also help to the doctors is by giving them better data points in making the decision that they are going to make. So all of this is to help the clinicians and the healthcare professionals. But Gen AI is something that is again a new exciting trend, which is not just for healthcare, but overall it is becoming a very exciting trend. And again, it will help in making these decisions much faster. So let's say if you're a doctor and now there is a good digitization, I have some 10 years of your records, I still have to spend time in understanding what that record is. That is, of course, going to help me in better decision making, but will make my decision longer.
Yes.
Although the more precise doctor's diagnosis is, the better, the faster care you get.
Yes.
Okay. But if doctor takes a lot of time into reading all of that, because now there is so much of information overload, it won't help. So that is where Gen AI and AI and even the traditional AIs, they come into picture, which helps them summarize this information, gives them a clear view of what is available, what are the gaps, and even go to some knowledge repositories, get some assistance from there, and help doctors make those decisions.
Yes.
So this is a very exciting trend, which is clinical decision support. Which has come because of the digitization and now adding AI and Gen AI type of technologies.
Yes.
That is where I think the digitization and the AI and analytics is helping. It has traditionally been helping other businesses also in reducing inefficiencies, but clinical outcomes is something which is very exciting to see these days.
Yes, yes. So to our listeners, they are mostly students and very early professionals. So to them, those who want to get into the healthcare industry, analytics as well. So what are some tools as well as skills you would like to suggest for them to begin now?
Right. So anyone who wants to be in analytics, AI or technology, first thing you have to be is you have to think programmatically, which is something I feel sparked my interest also in technology, which is thinking program. So you should be a good programmer at heart. It doesn't mean that you should learn a technology and you should be an expert in that. Of course, that helps. But what the actual core skill or the core skill set beneath it is thinking programmatically, and that comes with problem solving skills. That comes with being very fearless in technology. So you shouldn't be very tied to a certain technology that no, I will do C++ or I'll do Java or I'll do something like this. It keeps changing. Technology is fast changing. So the best skill set to have is to not fear any change in technology.
Correct.
Adapt to it. And next thing is now because you have things like Copilot and Gen AI helping you out in building these technical softwares. So next thing a core skill set that everyone needs to have is to be able to explain what you want to build to a LLM, to your preferred GPT or Gemini or whichever model you prefer, and to be able to use it to its maximum potential to build technology faster. So to know how to prompt your GPT so that you get the right answer quickly is a core skill set that will be required in future. No matter which job you are doing, whether you are into healthcare, analytics, AI, for everything you should know how to make use of Gen AI. Like earlier, it was the skills to Google. Of course, the smartest kid was someone who can Google it quickly and be able to implement it also.
Yeah.
Now the smartest kid would be someone who can give the right prompt
to the
and
yes.
and it is not just asking do this or do that. It is about giving the context to the LLMs about what you want to build, what kind of solution you want, and then getting the right answers for them. So these are the skills that I feel that now young kids, professionals should possess.
Yes, we were discussing the skills that the beginners can use, but now, do you think there is some specific tools which the beginners can start with learning them?
Yeah, of course. Excel, which is and SQL. This is like bread and butter for any analytics. Any person who wants to aspires to be a analytics professional. And of course, now Python is also one of the majorly used tools that is there. But again, like I said, don't be tied to or married with these technologies. They'll keep changing, and with use of GPT and all, it will become much more easier to use this. Even if you don't know it, it will Chat GPT kind of platforms will help you use it faster. So it is something that you will be expected to know. It is not something that you will learn on the job. What you will probably need to know is, like I said, to learn to know how to get the right answer from the GPT for these tools. So,
we can start with all this.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, as you said, a mind to adapt to all these changes is very important, right?
Yes,
they have to get updated as well as adapted
Right.
to all these things.
Yeah.
Yes. So, you have led many teams, and what does your leadership style look like?
So, see, if I reflect on how I have been working with my team internally, is I usually trust people. I feel trust is very important. I don't like too much micromanaging. I trust that people will take the right decision. My job as a leader is to help them with the purpose, is to help them to understand that why are we doing this. Once they know this, then I will go with their solution. I will go with and that is where the ownership will come. So I can also one of the leadership style is that you tell your vision, you also tell the solution, you also to the last detail you plan it, and then you ask them to execute. But then that still becomes your solution, and I cannot hold anyone respond, or I cannot make them own that solution.
Correct.
So I would like the solution to come from the team. Of course, even if it is their solution, it may be different from mine. It may be not always wrong. It can be just different. But my job is to help them if it is aligning with the outcome that we are expecting. And the next part of my job as a leader would be to shield them in case if it goes wrong.
Yes.
Because I don't believe that as a good leaders we can do this, that okay, no, it was your problem, you your solution, you manage the consequences. So to give them that safe space to come up with the right solution behind whom they can put their weight, because they need to own it up. So I think building more leaders is what my objective would be at the end of the day, so that everyone knows why they are working. And my job is to bridge bring the purpose into whatever they are doing. Because once you have that, then you will always be interested in your.
Correct. Yeah. We should have the patience enough to hear their suggestions, their solution. Right. Yes.
Patience, of course, but I think that is the only way to scale. Otherwise, you will always be, handling the same size of the team. Because if you want to get into every minor decision, instead you empower your team to take those decisions themselves. And you come into the picture only when there is something which cannot be decided. And whatever that decision is, stand by your team in front of the others. So if let's say it doesn't work, then we all take the responsibility, but the ownership uh, uh, has to be percolated not just on the leaders but also each and every member of the team. So if they build solutions by themselves, they will obviously be owning them.
Yes, yes. So, also, I'd like to know, being a women leader in tech, of course, you might have faced a lot of challenges, and how do you overcome that?
Uh, See, the main challenge is there are less women in tech. Yeah.
Tech, yes.
So you find less of your kind around you. Uh, any tech company you go to, the male to female ratio is not very nice, and companies have to. In fact, the bigger companies who can afford to do a diversity hiring, they can plan to do certain activities so that more women join the team. But smaller companies can't even do that because for them the best resource is the priority, and they may not have the budget to make it more inclusive. But number of women wanting to join tech itself is less, so you will always see yourself odd one out. It may not be even a bias, it may not be even someone is trying to be not nice, or it may not be a negative situation, but when you find that you're the only one, you yourself get scared. So that is a situational challenge. It is no one's mistake, but it is a situational challenge that I have earlier faced, that in many rooms I was the only female, but now that is changing.
Yes.
Yeah, honestly, now that is changing. There are, of course, subtle biases, but those have been long ingrained in our society, and I see that there is again much more improvement that is happening. So from where we have come to where we are now, I think we have covered a lot of ground. Of course, there is a lot more to cover. We are getting there slowly as a society, but I feel getting equal opportunities, being heard with the same seriousness as a male colleague is heard, all those things are better, much better than before.
Yes, yes.
And I feel equality, and the other challenge which I think everyone has faced, is societal expectation outside of the work.
Correct.
Because that is more for you than that is for the males. And of course, you have only limited mental bandwidth. So if you have to give or contribute more at home compared to the other male colleagues you have, of course, you will not be 100% at the office. So I see that change also happening. I see men contributing more at home. So if we are not equal at home, how will we be equal at the office? We cannot do double shifts. No one can. So I think these are the challenges to some extent all of us have faced, but there is also an improvement because more and more talks happen around this. I think men also get the responsibility. Women are also knowing that, okay, we can say no, it's okay to say no, which is something we were not taught as millennials or even as women. So all of that I see is changing.
The companies to have more policies, like inclusive policies,
Yes.
where women, the environment for women is more,
Right.
like she feels comfortable.
She feels.
Yeah.
So she'll feel comfortable if there are more women.
Correct. Yes.
I want more women
That's
to
what
join.
you were talking, like
Yes, yes.
women in tech is comparatively less.
Much
Yes.
less. This is one area. I don't think so. Other areas would have such a skewed ratio, but technology is definitely a place where I see much lesser women there.
Yes, let new women
Yeah.
come into tech.
Yes.
Yeah, let them
So that-
get more motivation and encouragement.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Would you say domain knowledge is more important than tech skills, or the students need a balance of both?
See, it depends on the interest where the student is more interested. That's why you have streams like engineering or business or NDA. There are two streams for a reason. But I feel have to work collaboratively. Doesn't matter if you are a techie or if you are a pure business person. But if you are, let's say, your interest is in technology and you have good technical skills, you can't really work in isolation and create something and then say, okay, I'm going back home. If you are not too much interested in business, or are not really too keen on understanding, you need or you don't have time to explore that. That may also be the reason. One skill set that you need to have is being collaborative, because alone you cannot build one thing. And of course, one person is not expected to know everything. So if you have your niche in technology, I think you should ensure that you work with someone collaboratively who have their niche in understanding the business, and vice versa. If business is something that interests you, you will not be probably be come up with will be able to come up with the best solution what technology can offer, and it is important that collaboratively you work with the technique. So I think collaboration is the best most important skill you can have, apart from picking some niche. There are people, of course, who like both. They also are able to contribute much better if there is a balance. But it's not wrong to choose one stream and be best at it. That is also
Correct, correct.
something
Yes.
you can definitely choose. But without collaboration, none of it will work. So whatever skills you have, you ensure that you are able to translate that into a meaningful solution by working with others. So technology brings solutions, whereas business brings the impact and why we are doing it. We might want to build a lot of things, but it should have some purpose. It should have some impact. So it will happen many times when you're working that you're loaded with a lot of requests. Said, "Hey, you do this, you do this for me, and why don't you build this solution? Why don't you build that solution?" It is understanding of the business and evaluating the impact that will help you prioritize. So most of our life's decisions are that where should we spend more time? Should we spend more time in playing video games, or watching movies, or studying? We have all been struggling with these kind of prioritization throughout our lives.
Correct.
And the workplace is no different. You will have to pick up things which are higher in impact. Sometimes you will have a mentor who might help you to do that. Sometimes you may not. You may be left to decide on yourself that out of the 5 tasks that you have, which one should I pick first.
Yeah.
So business knowledge, or getting in touch with someone who has business knowledge, will help you create the right priority.
Yes, yes. So before we wrap up, I'd like to know that somebody giving you one suggestion in your younger self so that you could have made things better.
Yeah, I think same thing that we spoke before, finding the purpose of what your work is doing. So whatever you are working on, it should be tied to some impact. It should be tied to some goal. And that goal could be a personal growth also. That goal can be aligned. And if it aligns with, your organization's objective, then it is something that will create impact too. But everything that you do, please find a purpose in it. If you don't understand the purpose, please don't be scared in asking why. Why are we doing this? Why do we know? Why do we need to do this first, or why do we need to do it this way? The purpose is what will help you to be interested in jobs all the time. Otherwise, there are not all the tech jobs or everything that you do in day to day is fancy. It's not that you will be working on cool technologies all the time. There is a lot of grunt work that needs to be done, which is repetitive, which may seem boring, which will make you uninterested. But if you know the purpose, why you're doing it, and what will it help you achieve, or what will it help the organization achieve, you will not find it boring. You will still do it, not because someone has asked you, but you yourself know that this is important to you.
Correct.
So spend as much time as required to find the purpose of the work that you're doing. Another thing I would like to add on is see how others are doing it. Don't build. Of course, building from scratch is something I also boast about, but we didn't build everything from scratch. First, we saw what others are doing.
Correct.
We saw if there are some ready-made solutions for it. Yeah. If there is already a better way to do it, do that research first.
Correct, correct.
It is something that I probably didn't understand.
The smart work.
The smart work. I didn't understand. I would read all the code. I would, put in that hard work.
Yeah.
But if I had just researched enough to see how others are doing it, I would have come to the solution.
Yeah, pick up the best and
exactly. So secondary research is something which is very, very important for anyone. You need not be, a high-ranking managerial person in your organization. You need not be a leader. You can be a fresher, but research should be something that should be ingrained in you. Let me check what others are doing for the same. It is good to know what others are doing. It is good to benchmark your solution against them. And I think you will save a lot of time by bringing, and that will give you the edge also.
yes. So that's it. a clean, clear, and confident conversation. And thank you so much, Ms. Anagha, for having here, participating in our Skill Up, and be here with us in our campus. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Anjana. It was great talking to you.